Welcome, my friends, to CIRF number 478. We're going from November 13th through the 19th, 2025. I'm going to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes giving you a heads up on what it's going to feel like based on astrological alignments and then what to do about it. So that's basically what we're going through. And I'm calling this the climax of emotional pressure. Even though we have a waning crescent moon, typically these kind of got a contradiction or a paradox to sort out, because you got a waning crescent moon, meaning that the emotions sort of draw down, and yet you have this extremely tight, powerful grand water trine, and so we got to sort that out. That's what we're going to do mainly here as we head towards a new moon. That'll be in the next CIRF report. Okay. Shout out to CJ Star Monkey and John Doe. Thank you for the best comment, tied for first. And if you would like to help the channel, put a comment down below. Also, rank order who you think deserves the best comment. So now we like to go from big to small. Here's the eclipse cycle. We're headed towards a Scorpio new moon on November 20th. That's the day after the end of this week. So we're in the shaded area right before that, meaning that we are in a waning crescent moon. So here's some other things to look at for this week that is in between these vertical lines. Jupiter had just gone station and now is full retrograde this week. Mercury in a retrograde, and towards the end of the week we'll go into Scorpio, and that's what really brings a big, powerful fixed water backdrop signature, and Mercury will also make its way to part of the grand water trine. You see all these 17s. These are trines and sextiles that are going exact in the middle of our week, and they're all water. All these represent easy water energy. And here's yes, I realize it went way past the scale because the scale stops at 10. And I think this emotional intensity is only getting stronger. Mercury is included in there, the grand water trine. I'll show you the stars, and that's why I think it just goes through the roof. But meanwhile, the waning crescent moon is drawing down, and it doesn't mean the emotions aren't there. It just means that the emotions in a waning crescent environment is going to go more inward. It's going to be less expressive. So this red line I have labeled as expressive motivation. And so the emotions will get stronger, even though the expressive, the desire to show everybody or tell everybody or talk about it diminish throughout the week. And then here's the new moon as that motivation starts over again once we get past this CIRF week. Okay, so day by day, Thursday the 13th, we start big to small. The sun is in Scorpio, mid to late Scorpio, and well, I'm going to talk about the grand trine, but the number 2 then is the moon, and the moon is in a waning crescent, so post last quarter moon. So what we have then is a subdued or reflective energy, maybe just less outwardly expressive, like I mentioned before, still intuitive and dreamlike as you would expect in a grand water trine. But the moon itself, its moon's component is a drawdown, is bringing things more internal rather than external. And inside then, with the moon the way it is, more reflective and inner, is this grand water trine, which is really focused on the 25 degree mark in the water signs. So sun obviously at 21 degrees here on Thursday the 13th. And that'll give these slower planets moving, will give the sun plenty of time to get into about a 25 degree. And it's just extremely tight. I think it's going to get within 10 minutes. This grand water trine, the orb will be within 10 arc minutes. So very, very tight. Not right now, but it will be. And it won't be subtle. It'll be explosive emotions, feelings will be flooded with empathy, imagination, psychic sensitivity, emotional resonance. It's very tight as we go along. So highly emotional, highly harmonious, and it's already starting here. I didn't mean to say that just because there's 4 degrees of orb that it's not very emotional. Oh, it is. Like this chart says, we didn't start at 0. We already started at mid, went to the max, and then we're going to go above max. So, all right, on Friday, the 14th, the big news is the grand water trine. Lots of sextiles. Sextiles represent opportunities. So the air of this, because there's a couple of grand trine, lots of trines basically that haven't gone fully. The moon's going to create another grand trine. It's going to be an grand air trine on Saturday. But the moon travels so fast in relation to this zodiac that those are going to diminish very quickly. So just one day, but lots of opportunities, lots of easy energy, especially in the water signs, and then we also have opposition. So it's going to be highly emotional, highly reflexive or internal based on the waning crescent moon. I think we're with these oppositions and where they are, it's going to be easy to fall into a duality based on the emotions that you experience. You'll have probably contradictory emotions even in some cases, but these are going to produce ultimately the opportunities. So you have the oppositions. These represent like polarities and duality. And but the opportunities are going to come from those, like sorting out the polarity, mainly the beginning part of our week. Saturday the 15th, now the main grand water trine with the sun is just getting stronger. It's like a 2.5 degree orb right now. What I didn't mention before was this water hasn't changed, so I'm mentioning it now, but the background signature, slightly more water than anything else. Well, it's more than slightly. It's definitely a water background, signature background. It's like the canvas on a piece of art. So the stars have their alignments, and it lays on a very watery backdrop. Now it's going to move so when we start this week, the 13th, it's going to be moving from a slightly more mutable water. So mutable is more adaptable and likes change and wants to adapt. But that's going to dry up, and we're going to basically tie between fixed and mutable. But it's definitely still water all the way through, and just going to get even more water as we go along. Ultimately, at the end, we're going to be fixed water, and that is Scorpio. It's going to be a Scorpio backdrop. It's going to have a lot of planets in Scorpio, main ones: Venus, Sun, and Mercury, once Mercury gets back into Scorpio. But for now, right now, it's about even. Fixed is more of, imagine a tree with deep roots and it ain't going anywhere. It's a big tree and just steady and stays put. Mutable wants to change. So it's going from the adaptable to the fixed by the end of the week. And I will hopefully mention that since I missed it the first time. Sunday the 16th. This is where Sun at 25 degrees, 6 minutes is exact with its trine over to Jupiter. So one of our legs is exact. And then let's look at the other leg. Well, the other Saturn is at 25 degrees, 16 minutes. So there it is, 10 minutes. 10 arc minutes away from being tight. This is extremely tight. And what that means is the the energy is the easiest on a trine. So it's extremely emotional energy. So that's the water, extremely connected, empathy, intuitive insights, heightened intuition is in here, emotional healing, emotional validation, feeling seen by others, the oneness that's in the Pisces energy, since there's a couple of planets there together, Neptune and Saturn. Spiritual rebirth is here, but it's profound. It goes into a climax, and this is only one of the legs, because we get into Monday. Now this is Sun trine Saturn. It goes exact, and it's still at 10 minutes. So we got 2 full days at might as well just call it exact, even though it's 10 minutes. But powerful, very, very emotional. This is going to be a psychic voyage. Empowered emotional strength within, trusted bonds, intuitive depth, emotional, intense influence that is slightly, because of Saturn, slightly cold, blunt, real, direct. Just say it like it is, but it's a resilient, disciplined strength, all based in the emotions and the subconscious. So it's there, it's bold. Then on Tuesday, this is where Mercury at 9:32, Mercury retrogrades from Sagittarius back into Scorpio. And voila, there we have 7 water signs, 6 fixed signs. So we have a very strong fixed water, i.e. Scorpio backdrop. Now with the moon there as well. So you got 4 planets. We're about to get that new moon. So that's not going to happen until the next CIRF report. So it's just the extreme drawdown in the lunar cycle matched with extremely tight grand water trine. So it's swelling on the inside. Hard to deliver this really out. Maybe hard to hide it too, but with that waning crescent moon, that'll be interesting to see people in a very like pressure cooker kind of a feeling inside. It's not like it's fire sign. It's not like it's grand fire, but it's swelling emotional energy that is sort of capped by the outer need to express it. And so basically we have an extreme amount of emotions that are being trapped within. So what does that feel like? Well, before we get to the overview, the I-Ching, let me get to the last day, Wednesday the 19th. This is where now there's a second grand water trine, as if we needed more. And that's why that original chart just shows the emotions just getting stronger and stronger. This is Mercury and Neptune go exact trine. This is a trine, and it's making another grand water trine. So 2 double grand water trines. Jupiter has both of them, so it's expansive in the Cancer part. So extreme amount or excessive caring and nurturing and protecting and caring. And then this is the Neptune is the dreamy, the mysterious ocean. This is an ocean of, well, thoughts and feelings, because now we include the mind. We include Mercury. We include the ability to communicate it. But I think the words, if you do think or communicate, it's going to sound extremely emotional. Intuitive hunches and gut feelings will guide the communication, a sense of magic and mystery in everyday communication. Strong sense of spiritual connection and synchronicities galore with these double overlapping grand water trines, as we are only about 8 degrees from the new moon. All right, so enjoy your vivid imagination and creative expression. The increase in empathetic and compassionate communications and spiritual mystical insights, synchronicities galore. But as I mentioned before, the I-Ching really does capture the essence of what it means to have a waning crescent moon, almost to a new moon, but not quite there. And then at the same time, probably the tightest grand trine we've ever seen in water signs. So excessive pressure. 28, no change lines. So the feelings of overwhelm, urgency, when you got a lot of emotions, that is going to be motivating, but may not be motivating to express it because of the moon. But this brings a need for decisive action. It feels like a need for decisive action in the face of imbalance and pressure. The weight of responsibility or challenge feels immense. It's a potential for collapse or failure if balance is not restored. Emotions oscillate between fear of breaking under pressure and hopeful resolve. So therefore, I think the biggest risk from the grand water trine, even though the trine and grand trine represents harmonious type of energy going between parties easily, it's a lot, and it's going to be very intense. Some of us humans, meeting with a client later, that's the main problem so far, is the inability. Just everything feels so intense, so pressurized, and it's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming experience to just have intense emotions, and that's what we're all going to have, for good or bad. So, yes, even you air signs, because that's me as well. All right, here's the overview of our influence. It's probably the most yang you'd ever feel in this very much waning crescent moon. Should be like pretty much down here into the yin. But I think that grand water trine, very tight, background water signature is it's going to fabricate a feeling of more yang. It's going to be motivating. We continue along the evolving trajectory that began during the previous CIRF week. As the waning crescent moon descends, its gentle drawdown contrasts with the intensifying energy of the grand water trine, now strengthening and unifying its influence and also climaxing. Emotions, dreams, subtle sensitivities begin to swell, shaping and coloring human experience with heightened depth, empathy, and emotional healing. The grand water trine fosters a seamless flow of intuitive awareness, emotional resonance, and spiritual connection. Towards the end of this CIRF week, the collective energies turn towards a fixed orientation with a strong Scorpio background signature. Everything pretty much, you have the main planets, sun and moon, both in Scorpio at the end of the week. You have, at the same time, that Mercury is retrograding back into Scorpio. It's all about Scorpio. All the planets are there. The background signature is hence there, and the grand water trine. And two of those trines are in Scorpio. The points are in Scorpio. So, all right, time for our solution. Because what is this good for if you don't know how to behave, or how to react from what we're feeling, these heavy emotions? So when you put no change lines in, we just say hexagram 28 now for behaviors. So consider addressing imbalances or burdens that have grown too heavy to sustain. Reflect on what is overstretched or unsupported in your life and take steps to reinforce or release it. Great time to do that. Avoid ignoring the pressure. Very hard to do for intense emotions, is just let them be there, but we don't want to ignore them. Instead, consider channeling into constructive action. If you really, really need to do something, or you're feeling restless with these emotions, try to channel it into something of value for yourself or for the ones around you instead of escapism. Because if you try to just ignore the intense emotion, guess what? Now you're just going to probably be motivated towards escapism, which will create more problems. So be mindful about your channeling constructive action, and also embrace bold decisions to correct what feels unsustainable. Now, we're not in the business this week of making bold projects or starting new projects or anything like that. But when we embrace bold decisions, it's about correcting or going towards balance because things are feeling unsustainable. Okay. All right, we're still rolling. Now we're going to convert. So what we have analyzed is the Sun trine Jupiter is the most dominant leg or the most influential component or alignment this week from the Sun trine Jupiter. And so we want to look where the most dominant energy is. It's at 25 degrees 6 minutes. And we're going to convert that into the rave and sidereal. Sidereal is Libra. The rave mandala is 14. That's from Human Design. So this gets us into our solution matrix so we can figure out what best actions to consider. Let's quickly digest hexagram 14 of Human Design. It's called Possession in Great Measure. The accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. The goal of this gate is to harness resources and power through skilled social dynamics. When you have a grand water trine, there is going to be a big influence of social engagement, even if you're not in a social environment. And then we have line 1, because that's where the sun is when it makes that perfect trine. It unlocks number 1, line 1, money isn't everything. The recognition that wealth has its own problems. The lust for lucre tempered by higher principles. The key to manifesting power is higher principles. And then on the downside, the delusion that you can throw money at all problems. Energy alone can never be the key. Basically, it's saying the downside is saying that, you've gotten to the place where you're not really challenged by anything. So all you got to do is just throw money at it. Well, it's saying that that's the downside is there needs to be a why component. And that when you get to the point where you can just throw money at problems and the problems go away, that's not necessarily a good thing. Needs to have a purpose, but also the money itself, when it gets to that point, needs to have an outlet of, influence of what are you going to do with that money instead of just throwing it at creating more comfort for yourself. So it's if we had to name this something else, it would be the prosperity paradox. The goal of this line is to transcend the material illusion that accumulation alone brings fulfillment. So if we just get money and get resources for the sake of having them, it doesn't bring any fulfillment. Instead, discovering how resources can serve higher purposes while acknowledging their inherent complexities. All right, so practical suggestions for this line. It's about balance. Regularly audit your resources and how they align with your values. Don't just get more. Make sure they're aligned with what's important to you in your life. When faced with challenges, brainstorm solutions that don't rely solely on spending or money. Create a personal philosophy of wealth that includes both material and non-material forms of abundance, because money is not the only way to be abundant. And finally, develop skills that cannot be purchased but must be earned through experience and wisdom. Why this is important this week is because the sun transits this exact line as it is hitting an exact trine. So that grand water trine is at its highest. It's a climax which unlocks this. So this transit highlights the collective delusion that throwing money at issues is sufficient, while simultaneously awakening a deeper understanding that principles must guide our use of power and resources. In other words, need to have a why, not just more. Not just more money will not produce more fulfillment or more happiness. So there you have it. There's the background for our overlapping or triangulating. We have the excessive pressure to consider. We have the money isn't everything line. We have a waning crescent moon to discover. And the Sidereal Libra, which is graceful, harmonious, charming, diplomatic. So put it all together, and what do we get? Number one, grace under strain. It's a lot of excessive pressure. Calmly reassess values and restore balance as we await the next moon. It's not like we want to do a lot of things. We don't want to get a lot of things. We just want to really just get back to balance and get ready for the new moon. That's ultimately probably the highest thing to consider. Get back to balance. And number two, turn into the chapter that is ending and intuitively release material and emotional attachments as needed. Just in this waning crescent moon, get back to balance. That's the Sidereal Libra. And whatever it takes to get back to balance. Number three, strive to act with fairness and integrity, even under pressure, because there is going to be probably that emotional pressure within and sort of trapped within. If there is a strong pressure to work and toil, like some of us do, just always have this constant chronic need to get something done, need to move, need to go do something. Well, then either put it on the schedule for a week from now, depending on how big this project is. It's not like a waning crescent at this point in time is not a great time to start new projects. Doesn't mean you can't. It just means it's probably going to take more effort and maybe some more roadblocks in there, maybe a little less motivated to do it. So put it on the schedule for a week from now after the new moon. That'd be a better time to start that. Or if you can't, only do that which will move you back towards a sense of balance. So I can see how a lot of us are going to have excessive energy. And normally with this waning crescent moon, we just, relax, rejuvenate. Well, relax and rejuvenate with an excessive pressure of emotions within could spell disaster for some of us, for like extreme restlessness or cabin fever. So in that case, go use your energy to get back to balance. Okay, seek purpose over profit. Avoid throwing money or energy towards problems without evaluation. Radiate calm and reflective maturity. As you would expect from a triangulation this week with the waning crescent moon, a lot of this is not very social, except for 4. Libra is pretty social. So it's not like you're not allowed to go do social. You can do whatever you want. I think the majority of this triangulation is probably try and spend some time alone is probably the biggest suggestion there. There's nothing that you have to do. If you're an extrovert and just want to go spend time with your friends, well, then do that. I'm not saying you can't, but the triangulation is a little more introverted this week. So just consider that. And that's all I have for you this week. We're going to get ready for a new moon in Scorpio. So it's a couple of weeks, probably about 2 to 3 weeks now, with the climax of Scorpio, both this week, late this CIRF week, and then also next week. So there's like a window of about a week. Massive, intense Scorpio energy deep within. All right, enjoy, and we will see you next Tuesday for another CIRF report. Take care, everybody. Love and light.